Good Friday evening, folks. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with you. We've got a weather impact alert for today for slow-moving thunderstorms and the possibility there for some of them becoming strong or severe. And that's exactly what we're seeing with a new cell that has developed over Sussex and northern Southampton, streaming towards Surrey and over in the Isle of Wight as well. The cell itself doesn't look all that bad. But you look at it here, and it did have the history of producing at least a small hail core just to the west of I-95. In fact, if we just go back a little bit here, you can see how pronounced that was. That was bringing a hail size in. Let's go back again here and see what that maybe was. Up to walnut size, so inch diameter hail, which would trigger a severe thunderstorm warning. Since then, though, we go to this current time frame, and it has really dissipated as it's now moving over 301 and I-95 at this time. Plenty of thunder and lightning, though, and likely some gusty winds in the mix here, too. And that's overall the main hazard that we're being concerned with so far this evening will be for these storms to produce some gusty, damaging winds and possibility of a secondary hazard being some small hail. All right, here's a look at some wind gusts here. We're getting close to the radar site out at Wakefield, so some of these numbers are getting pretty close to ground observations here. Even those aren't exceptionally high, seeing 30 to maybe 40 mile per hour wind gusts within this warning overall. You can see the cell is really nothing to write home about here. Main hazard when it was issued from the Weather Service is for wind gusts to 60 miles per hour and possibility of an inch diameter hail within this cell here as it's about to push right over the Wakefield radar site here out in Sussex County. Now, it's not the only activity going on. We're starting to see things getting a little more active down in northeastern North Carolina. You see this play out over the last hour, and this line is pretty much moving due east, but it is kind of back building up into Gates County, where we can see the residual outflow boundary that we talked about on the 6 o'clock news tonight. That was from some storms that collapsed over the Chesapeake and Virginia Beach city line, shot out an outflow boundary that you can see here racing off towards the west. And it is interacting with incoming storms. So we're seeing a convergence boundary here that's forcing the development of more storms. So I wouldn't doubt if you see where Mittensville sees that increase in thunderstorm activity there in southern Gates County. If that starts to back build off to the north and west and fills in out through Franklin, all while pushing the main line off to the east there. So that's going to be interesting to watch. A huge cluster of thunder and lightning here about to move on into inland Dare County. Lightning strikes on this, if we stop it here at the current image, over 1,000 strikes in the last 30 minutes in this particular area. You think that's impressive, though? Look at this cell. That is southwest of Richmond. I'm going to zoom in here and just get all of these lightning strikes. 1,500 strikes in that cell just over the last 30 minutes. That puts about an hour reading of over 3,000 lightning strikes just within that area here. And, of course, that is warned for the gusty wind threat. And also there is some small hail showing up there in this area out to to the west of Petersburg still at this time. In fact, the warning on that is up for Amelia, Dinwiddie, and Nottoway counties, well outside of the 13 News Now viewing area. But if we put it in motion here, you can see the general movement over the last 2 hours does show it gradually pushing closer to I-85. Will we see some weakening with this? Good possibility we do, but probably not up until after it gets past I-95. So it may still impact areas like Sussex and over into Surrey counties here as we approach probably the next hour or so, because this cell itself is moving at 25 miles per hour. So has a little bit more of a clip to it, but it is leaving behind a lot of rain. So we do have a flash flood warning that you can see here lingering behind the cell out towards Farmville. In fact, let's look at 1 hour rainfall totals just in this cell. Oh, yeah, you can see some of these in Nottoway and Amelia counties. 2 1/3 inches in an hour. So 1 to 2 or plus inches per hour rainfall rates have been achieved in that severe thunderstorm warned cell. So not only is the hazard gusty, damaging winds, but also the flash flooding threat persists there. Again, it's getting closer to I-85, still well outside of our area. We have this one lone severe thunderstorm warning. Honestly, I'm a little confused on why it was issued. I don't see much in the way of any hail signature with it, nor do I see winds gusting all that high. They maybe could be getting up to 50, 55, 60 miles per hour. But regardless of that, it is racing off to the north and east here. Let's put a storm track, or let's see what the speed is on it. Moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. So let's put a storm track on it. Northeast at 15. Going out from here. All right, Wakefield itself, 30-minute lead time on that. Dendron around just ahead of 8 o'clock. Surrey, if it was to hold together, you got almost 90-minute lead time there around 8:30. Smithfield at 8:52 and Homewood at 9 o'clock. So well after the sun goes down there. We'll see if that holds together. Again, back-building storms here in southern portions of Gates County. Just north of Mittensville, lots of lightning and thunder there. And if we put this in motion last hour, you can see it kind of filling in farther to the north and west in the residuals there of the outflow boundary from Reynoldson down to Gatesville and Mittensville. So that's our convergence boundary here. That's causing some likely more development to fill on in there in the next hour or so, and probably begin to move off to the east a little bit quicker. All the main activity, though, and there's only a handful, there's only actually 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. Of course, the one that's just firing off a light show out in Onottaway and Amelia counties. Diving, there's the extension of that just issued. Let's see what they say on this one. This one is up until 7:45, still outside of our viewing area, but it's now moving at 20 miles per hour. So slowed down a little bit. It was moving at 25 with the last issuance there, slowing down. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, radar indicated. But I did see that there were some reports of some damage. Let's see here. Oh, this was from a storm off to the north that there was some damage, but that severe thunderstorm warning is up until 7:45. So for about 40 minutes from now. And you can see here, this is kind of interesting to watch too. Almost right over the Wakefield radar site, you can see the outflow boundary coming in from Surrey and Isle of Wight, coming from the northeast, diving southwest. You see that boundary there that's diving and converging with this thunderstorm cell over Littleton. So they're converging here, and we'll see if we get a blow up of this storm. Pretty much right over the radome here out at Wakefield near Goodrich Fork, Waverly area. That'll be interesting to watch here, and that could actually boost the intensification of that cell as it's drifting to the northeast at only 15. Down to the south, the majority of this cell is missing our northeastern North Carolina cities and counties. However, it's about to approach Dare County, which has already been socked with a couple storms already this afternoon and evening. Kind of surprised this one is not warned yet either. It's from the Morehead City office there, so we'll see if we get a warning on that one anytime soon. Any hail signal? Yeah, some spotty areas of hail, but mainly just some extremely heavy rainfall with some blinding downpours there. Off to the west here, approaching the I-85 corridor, that's really where the dominance of this line is. I would say overall it's probably beginning to weaken just slightly, and it's just kind of confined to just a couple supercells. The one here that's issued with the warning that's now approaching Petersburg. That in and of itself is likely going to be a big problem. So we've got the flood watch that's up. If you remember, just 5 days ago, Monday night, I believe it was, that there was a flash flood emergency issued for the city of Petersburg with all the slow-moving downpours that they had seen. The Lieutenant Creek there had risen, I want to say it was like 10 feet. It went up in an hour and a half, maybe less time than that. And that caused water rescues, cars being swept away, so flash flood emergency. And that's very rare. In fact, it was a PDS flash flood emergency, and that's a particularly dangerous situation. And Weather Service put out a stat, which I love stats. And the stat with this was the last time that they had issued one. And you have to go all the way back to Hurricane Michael. Well, it was hurricane, then tropical storm as it rolled through our area, where they issued one. That was in 2018. So it's been nearly 7 years since we've had a flash flood warning issued in our immediate area from our local NWS office. And then before that, there were a couple. There was one in Virginia Beach and one in northeast North Carolina during Hurricane Matthew in October of 2016. So it's very rare, and it's been a long amount of time since we had one of those, but we had one over Petersburg. Now, that's a long roundabout story from what I'm trying to tell you. Here's the main threat, is this cell that's already dropped 2 inches per hour is building into Petersburg. We'll see if we watch Lieutenant Creek shoot back up again. And especially the Appomattox River here, too, that's getting all of this water that's coming on down from storms to the north, kind of flowing into the Appomattox and then down towards Petersburg. That's going to be interesting to see here. In fact, I can go in. Let me go in and check. You can't see it, but I'll talk through it. I can check the river levels out by Lieutenant Creek and see if we're seeing any sort of rising yet. Lieutenant Run Creek. That's what it's called, not just Lieutenant Creek. No, nothing showing up yet of any increase in those river levels yet. The Appomattox River, which is just west of there where this site is, also not seeing anything there yet. I'll continue watching that, though, to see if we get any rapid river rise here as this cell builds into that area. Again, it's only moving at 20 miles per hour. And as you saw, let's look at the 1 hour rainfall rates or 1 hour rainfall totals here. East of Farmville, Deatonville. Let's see what some of these numbers are. Painville, 2 1/3 inches. And then between 1 and 2.5 inches of rain has fallen in that area from that cell in the last hour. So certainly capable of producing flash flooding. In fact, it did have a flash flood warning behind it issued here, which is just radar indicated. So no gauges showing a big jump just yet. But that cell is going to be interesting to watch as it moves towards Petersburg. But again, outside of our 13 News Now viewing area. Aside from that cell, the only other one that's warned, again, is this one that we're going to watch. Let's go 45-minute. You see the convergence there of the outflow boundary and then the cell pushing northeast and likely going to force some more lift. And we'll see if that intensifies that cell at all. It did have a hail core earlier, now nothing in Sussex County. Could be a pocket of some gusty winds here right to the southwest of the radome site. So that's a pretty good sampling of winds close to the ground there when we get that close to the radar site. But nothing that's screaming 60-mile-per-hour plus winds, which was what the hazard was that caused the issuance of that warning. Let's see here. Okay, and I'm seeing now that there is a new mesoscale discussion. Let me see what that includes. Yeah, that includes all of our area. Hold on. Let me pull up that map so you can kind of see, and I'll talk through it as I kind of edit this this graphic. But so mesoscale discussions, think of it as like a precursor to, or just a kind of an insight into the thinking of the Storm Prediction Center and the Weather Service. It's kind of, they're discussing the overall setup and if they think that a warning, or excuse me, a watch would be necessary. So this most recent one here, that you can see, it'll fill in here in a second. Now it's not a 60% chance. It is actually a 20% chance. So unlikely that we see a severe thunderstorm watch issued here. So basically what they're saying, I'll read it to you. Multiple clusters of strong thunderstorms are ongoing early this evening, like we're seeing on radar. The environment across the region remains modestly favorable for organized convection with rich low-level moisture. Cape, which there's convective available potential energy there, and veering wind profiles resulting in effective shear. However, storm intensity and longevity have somewhat limited thus far. We've seen these storms kind of flare up and then fall apart. That's what they're talking about there. Potentially due to weak low-level flow and poor mid-level lapse rates, so ingredients that you need for a severe weather setup. Storm cluster moving across south central and southeast Virginia gradually become better organized early this evening and may remain capable of producing at least isolated wind damage as it moves eastward. So the widespread threat for severe weather is not high enough to warrant the issuance of a severe thunderstorm watch. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right there. It'll come in a second. There it is. That area they're discussing, and we are seeing on radar, of course, that there are active storms out there right now. The only one in our area that's warned is this one that's coming out of Sussex and building towards Surrey and maybe clipping Isle of Wight. There is a cell in Isle of Wight just north of Windsor that is technically warned because it's got the warning polygon including part of it, but it's non-severe right over Windsor, just some heavy rain, maybe some gusty winds. But really all the action, these cells that they're talking about is this one here approaching Petersburg, near Blackstone, Nottoway, Amelia, Dinwiddie. And then south into northeastern North Carolina along I-85, headed towards Raleigh-Durham. Well, in fact, they just allowed that warning to expire at 7:15. So we've just got that one cell that's warned, and boy, is that a doozy. I mean, look at this amount of lightning here. In 30-minute count, 1,500 strikes. And look at that, they did just put up a flash flood warning. Oh, wait, that's the severe thunderstorm. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. Amelia, Dinwiddie, and Nottoway flash flood warning now. Radar indicated so far. Let me again go over to the river data. and see if we're getting any sort of indication. No, I still don't see anything jumping considerably yet, but give it time. Sometimes it's a little bit of a lagging on those observations there. But that's approaching Petersburg, and why that's worrisome if you're just joining us, because that city had a flash flood emergency earlier this week, and obviously still saturated. Rivers, creeks still swollen. It's really Lieutenant Run Creek that was the big one that was causing the issues. The Appomattox River there as well, right through Petersburg. Of course, empties out into the James. Colonial Heights area. Right now, not seeing anything, but look at what's closing in on them there. This sucker. See it moving there. It's only moving at 15 miles per hour, but the amount of lightning there and the rainfall rates. In fact, here's a look at rainfall rates. Close to, oh, wow. So when you get a rainfall rate that's anomalously high like that, when it's kind of outside of the means of all the other ones, you're seeing generally 1 to 2, maybe 2.5 inches at most per hour. That may be pushing it. So when you get a reading there near Ammon that you see on your screen, 4.22 inches per hour, usually when it starts to get high, that's still kind of low. But when it pushes up to like 6, 7, 8 inches per hour, that's an indicator. Radar's confused that it's actually picking up on the returns from hailstones. And if we turn it over to hail, it looks like there could be some small hail possibly there. So there's the verification of that radar getting confused, that it's probably pinging on ice crystals rather than raindrops. And that sends back a higher return, telling the radar that really the rainfall rates here are super high, but really we're bouncing back from small hailstones instead of big raindrops. So that's what's going on out there. This is just out to the west of Petersburg still. In our area, it's just a cluster of slow-moving storms. In fact, last hour, okay, they just trimmed it back there. You can see it's now pushing a little bit farther to the northwest. Let's see what the update on it. Still radar indicated. Still hail size is smaller than severe warning criteria, which is less than an inch. 60-mile-per-hour wind gust a possibility. It looks like the cell behind the one moving towards the radar site is the emerging stronger one. Not much in the way of big-time wind gusts. Yeah, I'm only seeing here radar indicated up to 30 or 40 miles per hour at best. No hail signature on this. No shear. So just some heavy rain with lightning and thunder with this warning right now. That's mostly, the cells are mostly located in Sussex. But the warning does kind of spill over into northern Southampton and over into south, just clips really. I don't even know if it's actually up for Surrey. Let's see, is it included? No, it's just Southampton and Sussex. So it doesn't even include Isle of Wight anymore. Another cell trying to get organized here. We were looking at this earlier, north of Windsor, kind of filling in a little bit more near Raynor and Comet in Isle of Wight, non-severe at this time. And then down to the south and northeastern North Carolina, heavy rain, thunder, and lightning over Elizabeth City. This is all non-severe. At this particular time, not seeing any evidence of any hail, or there's probably some gusty winds, maybe all below severe criteria, though, in this line that's filling on in from Elizabeth City up into Gates County and northern Camden, northern Perquimans County in northeastern North Carolina. All right, well, that's the latest. I'll watch what's going on in Petersburg here over the next hour or so as this slowly trudges off to the east, and see if we get any weakening in there as well. But if anything changes in our immediate area, I'll pop back on here on 13 News Now Plus. Don't forget, 40 minutes from now, HHL, 8 p.m. We're talking hurricanes, and if there's anything brewing in the Atlantic, you can join us right back here on 13 News Now Plus at 8 o'clock. We'll see you then.